your grace. Artists lay their hearts for us to see. In the Culture Corner where we're all free. Culture Corner, tell your tale today. Voices rising like the dawn's first ray. Culture Corner, pave the path that's bright. Bringing dreams alive by the mic's light. Entrepreneurs with visions bold and clear. They chase their dreams without a trace of fear. Sharing wisdom to uplift and inspire. At the Culture Corner, we spark that fire. Culture Corner, tell your tale today. Voices rising like the dawn's first ray. Culture Corner, pave the path that's bright. Bringing dreams alive by the mic's light. Listeners tune in from far and wide, drawn to stories where hope can't hide. Bound by the beats and the shared desire. In the Culture Corner, souls ignite with fire. Culture Corner, tell your tale today. Voices rising like the dawn's first ray. Culture Corner, pave the path that's bright. Bringing dreams alive by the mic's light. Where the rhythms meet the mind's warm embrace. Stories unfold, tap into your grace. Artists lay their hearts for us to see. In the Culture Corner where we're all free. Culture Corner, tell your tale today. Voices rising like the dawn's first ray. Culture Corner, pave the path that's bright. Bringing dreams alive by the mic's light. Entrepreneurs with visions bold and clear. They chase their dreams without a trace of fear. Sharing wisdom
And
to
I'm back with episode 4 of the Culture Corner. You guys, first of all, I just want to thank you, each and every one of you, for being here, tuning in with me every day, every Tuesday at 4 o'clock. It has been such an amazing journey for it to only be episode 4. Like, what? I'm so excited. But today, I'm so excited to have not just a special guest, but a special friend of mine who has just overcome so many different obstacles, but also willing to teach, share through love and laughter and her bright light. Today, I have none other than Miss Jessica G, author of Life, Love, and HIV, a memoir. Miss Jessica, what's up, baby?
Hi.
How are you?
Good to see you.
It's so good to see you. So, first of all, how's the weather since being home? Because, we all know you don't live here anymore.
Yeah. Well, today is like Texas.
Okay.
The past couple of days, I was like, I need to go back to Texas. It's been like a little cool at nighttime. But other than that, it's okay.
It's okay. How is it
bad.
being back for a little while? Like, have you been around? You've been here for a few days. Have you been outside?
Yeah, I miss the food. I've been eating. I've been eating.
You've been eating?
Mm-hmm.
Good. Mm-hmm. Okay, I see you trying to get thicker than a Snicker over there. Okay, trying. You always been slim. You always
I've been trying for a long time.
You've been trying for a long time. That slim just done got you. So, speaking of the food, right, I tell people all the time that Illinois food, and I can't just say Chicago, but Illinois food in general is, I don't want to just say different, but better than anywhere else. Like, it's really hard to find good food when you live in another city.
Yes.
And you lived in not only Atlanta, but also, in the state of Texas. Mm-hmm. So what did you miss most? Like, what's your favorite food that you miss being at home?
Pizza.
Pizza?
What?
Okay.
I love pizza here. And Texas does not have good pizza.
Neither does Atlanta.
No. So I'm like, I guess because I've lived in like 5 different cities, mm-hmm. and the food is kind of different. The St. Louis area is different. Atlanta's different. You know what I mean? Texas, Louisiana. So
and they always have like Chicago's style.
Yes.
It's not.
It's really not.
It's really not. And I'm like, oh my God. But anyway, once again, I'm so happy to have you here today.
Thank you.
And I really just want to dive into your life because I see you on social media. I see you speak at your different speaking events, and I see you just live life as who you are unapologetically and also willing to share so much. So you're a mother,
I am.
You're an author,
I am.
And you're HIV/AIDS advocate, mm-hmm. and a proud member of
Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated.
Come on now, I love that. Like I love when sororities and fraternities just like do their thing. It is just amazing. I'm just like, you better.
Yes.
You better.
Yes.
All right. So, for those who may not know you, who is Jessica in your own words?
In my own words, Jessica is, I would say, an ambitious, tenacious, Black woman. I think I embody a lot of things, mm-hmm. But I also think that the embodiment of those things came from me testing positive for HIV at such a young age.
Ooh,
that I had to. Words. Yeah, it was a very humbling experience. And so you kind of learn how to navigate your life and your world like a little differently, So I think like my drive and my tenacity and stuff like that comes from feeling like at some point that I couldn't do nothing. Mm. You know what I mean? To where I'm like, I can't let this bring me down. You know what I mean? Like I need to figure out how to navigate this life and still be successful and still be someone that my kids can look up to. So
you can't let your label define you.
Yes. But that was really hard to learn. It took a long time,
Okay. So what inspired you to write Life, Love, and HIV, your memoir?
Well, being from a small town, right, it was like everybody knew my story. Everybody felt like they knew my story mm-hmm. or heard some version of my story, but I don't feel like everybody really knew the story. Mm. And so I wanted to write it in my own words so that people could have the real story. So that's what inspired me to be an author, because nobody can tell your story like you tell your story.
And that's true. So with your story and also being a mom, like how did that shape your journey?
It was really hard. You think that the easiest thing is to write about yourself and to write about your life, but it was actually like really hard, trying to figure out the chronological order. The thing that kept me on the straight and narrow was the fact that I've been journaling since 2007. Mm. And so I was able to go back in my journals and remember like at what point in my life that this particular thing happened and be able to write about it. So part of that I teach my kids, to as coping mechanisms, like maybe you can journal. I listen to music, things like that. So when I'm navigating this journey, I navigate this journey with my kids. They navigate it with me.
So with journaling, so did anyone encourage you to journal, or was that something you thought of yourself?
I actually watched, I don't know if you've seen Freedom Writers. Do you remember that movie? Yeah. That's where I got the inspiration to journal. Mm. Yeah.
Okay, so as a creative for myself, and I love to talk, journaling has been one of the hardest things for me to do.
Really?
Yes. And I'm like, I can write and type, mm-hmm. but when it comes to like structural writing, mm-hmm. it's so hard. And I've had like family members and friends, like, just journal. I have so many, and I will go and buy a brand new journal, like, all the time.
I have so many.
And it's just so hard. And I'm gonna do, because I like how you said you can go back and see like
your transformation. It's important. It's like at one point I was diagnosed with depression, anxiety, PTSD in 2016, and I thought it stemmed from like testing positive for HIV and coming out of domestically violent relationships and things like that. But really, I think it stemmed from a miscarriage I had in 2008. So
tell us more about. And for anyone at home, if you're watching with young children, this may get a little bit, just watch with care and ease. But you mentioned domestic violence. How did you get through that? Like, were you able to talk to people, tell people anything? When did you finally, I don't want to say come out of that, but when were you able to speak and tell your story when it comes to that?
Sometimes when you go through like traumatizing events like that, it's hard to see your value and it's hard to see your worth when it comes to relationships, right? Even when it comes to friendships, right? And so I had to learn my value and learn my worth in order for someone to respect that about me. And so it took me a long time. After I tested positive, I was in a few relationships like it talks about in the book. And I think that like a lot of that is people think you're a vulnerable woman, or they know, I should say, that you're vulnerable, right? And so there's certain things that you tolerate that maybe if you were strong enough, that you would never tolerate. Like there's things today that I would never deal with that I wrote about in my book that I'm like, today, I would never. So, yeah.
So I'm going to stop for a second because we do have some people checking in on Facebook. What's up, Natalie? Shari, hey, girl. Miss Latrice. Z Duffy is in the building. We have Ashia. She said, hey, y'all. Love y'all. Y'all look amazing. Hey, Latrice said, thank you for sharing. Thank you guys for tapping in. Punchy, what's up? Hey, Miss Donna. Corinne, hello, darling. So, yes, if you are here, Keela said, hey, bestie.
Hello.
So, if you're here, please remember to like and share the live. And also, heart them things. And if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat.
Yes.
But back to Miss Jessica. So, I know you're a part of a sorority, and you talked about friendships.
Yes.
So, what does sisterhood and friendship, what does friendship for you look like now? Like, was it hard? Do you feel like any friendships like got a little bit different afterwards? How did you navigate that, and what advice would you have for someone who might be dealing with anything, who may lose friends?
The friendship piece was hard because when you're in a situation like that, sometimes your friends don't know what to say. They don't know how to support you. They don't know what you want to hear in those moments or what you may not want to hear. And so I think it may create like kind of a weird distance, at the beginning. But once you come out of like that energy of like, I'm dealing with this right now and I'm going to try to deal with the friendship piece later, then I think it becomes easier to talk about. I did lose, friends on my journey, on my HIV journey, just friends that, just felt like it was maybe more important to share my story before I was ready to share my story, and, being from like a small town or, stuff like that, like sometimes it's the drama that's exciting, to people. And so it's like as soon as they have something to talk about, that's what we're talking about. And I was only 22 when I tested positive. So it was like, oh, my God, somebody, when I got in a relationship, sent my partner at the time a message that was like, I heard Jessica has AIDS. Do you have it too? And I'm just like, like AIDS though, right. You know what I mean? Like having to learn the difference that HIV is not AIDS, you know, having to learn that like people are going to talk and that maybe they don't have anything better to do but to gossip about you and what you have going on. And another reason why I chose to write the book, because fine, if you want to share the story, but share the right story. Yeah. You know what I mean? Share from my mind. But being a part of a sisterhood, I pledged later in life, I pledged at 33. So, It was me looking for what I felt like I lost over the years, you know, the friendships and stuff like that. I have very close friends, a few of them, but the sisterhood is different. You know, the sisterhood is I can call my sorors to talk. I can call them when I just want to go and hang out. We can all get together with Divine Nine, other Greek organizations and have fun. But it is about the camaraderie, you know, and the sisterhood and being able to get together and support each other. So I think friendships, you know, are the same, but I think close friends encompass just a little bit more.
That's amazing, because I can only understand, like, for me, and you said something that stuck out to me, and that was some people just don't know what to say, you know, and, you know, when I lost my son, like, I had to understand that some people just don't know what to say. And so, like, people are like, oh, have you heard from so-and-so? Have you heard from so-and-so? Like, no, and you can't really hold that against anyone, because they may really not know what to say or how to handle you in that moment, you know? So, no, I don't want to go out and kick it, or no, I don't, you know, some friends may come around and want everything to be normal, you know, and you're probably not in a space of normalcy yet. Like, no, this isn't, you haven't accepted reality just yet. And then you have those friends who are just like, hey, I want to coddle you with, and you don't want to be coddled at the moment. You don't want to cry. So I completely understand that. So you said that you were diagnosed at the age of 22, being so young. Can you take us back to that moment, like what you were feeling, what you were thinking when you heard that your diagnosis?
Yes, I was diagnosed. I talk about this all the time when I'm advocating, but I was given my diagnosis by an ENT, an ear, nose, and throat doctor. Like, to this day, I'm like, that was a terrible experience. I went to the hospital for a biopsy that day because I had gotten into a fight and all these things happened. My lymph nodes swelled and nobody could tell me what was wrong. So I went to the hospital for a biopsy, but they had already done like labs at the ENT. And so when I went to the hospital to get the biopsy done, the lab results came back already from the ENT doctor. And that is where the positive result came from. For HIV. So the ENT diagnosed me while I was waiting for my surgery for my biopsy to get done. So it was like, you know, I think it looks different coming from, now I see infectious disease, right? And I think that it looks different coming from an infectious disease doctor versus someone that doesn't necessarily specialize in that thing. You know, the consideration, the way they deliver and all that stuff is vastly different, you know? So I didn't know anything about HIV or AIDS when I tested positive. I didn't know what it was. I was like, you Google, don't Google.
Don't Google.
Oh, my God.
Don't Google.
Google killed my spirit. I was like, AIDS? HIV is not AIDS. But back then, 2009, Google was like, you know, search engine, I should say, whatever you use, right?
Right.
Google's
was like our TikTok.
Yes, yes, right? And it was like, yeah, most people develop AIDS within 10 years. And I'm like, well, that's not a long time. You know what I mean?
Right.
Oh, let me get this show on the road. I planned my first pregnancy. I had my daughter. I was like, let me just get married. Like, let me just, like, you know, speed things up. A little bit. I made very emotional, very impulsive decisions when I was grieving and trying to deal with all that trauma at one time, and being in an unhealthy relationship at the same time didn't help. So,
how long did it take you to tell someone? Like, do you remember the first person you told and their reaction?
That day, my godparents were with me at the hospital because I was going under anesthesia for the surgery. So they were the first people to find out. Shout out to them. That's when I was living in Atlanta. And then I called my mom. My mom was the first person. She didn't believe me. She was like, you're lying. I was like, no, like, this is real. She kept saying, is this real? I'm like, this is real. And then I told my partner at the time. And my partner was like, I was like, hey, like, you should go get tested because, you know, this is what just happened, blah, blah, blah. I had just left a long-term relationship from college, you know, and he was just like, that's messed up. Like, if I told him that if his test came back positive, you know, that we needed to work something out. But if it didn't, that I didn't want to be with him because I was afraid. Like, I didn't know, you know what I mean? But he was just kind of like, that's messed up. Like, I still want to be with you, you know, blah, 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 blah. And then turns out he was the one that gave me HIV, and he was the one that was born with HIV and didn't tell me, you know? And so I dealt with that for like, you know, I carried that for a long time.
You carried the
anger of like, you could have told me, you know, because undetectable, right, means that if he was taking care of himself, he could have saved me. You know what I mean? And probably a lot of people, you know what I mean? But it was like you made a conscious decision not to take care of yourself. And so, in turn, like, that was me. Yeah, my responsibility to make sure that I knew his status before we had unprotected sex, right? Important. Like, I always say, know your status and the status of your partner. Because if I just know mine and I don't know his, that's not helpful. You know what I mean?
So, we got some comments going crazy over here. What's up, Ish? George said, this is very deep. And Z said, you lost friends that needed to leave.
Okay.
Basically. Keela said she definitely needs to lose those friends because she know. She know because best friends know. T. Holmes said, hey, y'all. They said, period. You going to share. If you going to share facts in black and white, the books.
Please.
George said, everyone shouldn't have a voice on your circumstance. They are speaking from a space with no credentials. Facts. That's good. He also said some folks are more comfortable sharing business they heard about you versus what they know about them. People share other people's business versus theirs. He said deep. He said, what's... I'm not going to repeat that.
Okay.
He basically said, what kept you... Well, I mean, I do want to know, what kept you grounded with not, like... I don't
Spazzing out?
Yeah, on your partner. Like, what kept you grounded with that?
I had a daughter. Like, I had only been positive before I got pregnant, like 3 months.
Okay.
So I was like, oh, I can't go to jail now. And I didn't know that he was born with HIV until I was positive, like 18 months. And then I found out he was born with HIV. So the whole time, he just led me to believe he just didn't know his status. But that wasn't the truth.
He was born with it.
He was born with it. He just never told me. So that piece, yeah. You know, instead of going to jail or doing something crazy, like, I packed up another impulsive, emotional decision. I was living in Atlanta, and the next day after I found out he was born with HIV and knew the whole time, I quit my job, my full-time job, and I left Atlanta. I never went back.
Oh, wow.
I left Atlanta in 2011, and I told myself, like, that was it. I needed to be around my family, around my, my support system. I moved back to Zion.
Okay.
In 2011, and then in 2012, I decided to go back and finish my bachelor's degree. So I went back to Southern Illinois University in 2012, and I graduated with my bachelor's in 2015.
So what were some other ways that you were able to, because people don't know you can grieve different things, right? You know, you can grieve death, you can grieve like anything that you lose, but how did you process the grief of your diagnosis?
Music, journaling, and then when I got the balls to advocate, I started advocating, and that became my outlet in trying to help someone else not have to go through or experience what I had to experience at such a young age. Because being a heterosexual, cisgender, black woman, testing positive at 22, it wasn't a whole lot of me in that space. You know, a lot of times you saw a lot of gay men that were public about their status, but it wasn't a lot of black women, a lot of straight black women. So
your book shares how you went from grief to self-love. What helped, besides journaling and things like that, how did you find the beauty in yourself again? Like, what helped most in that transition?
I was diagnosed with major depressive disorder, and I could tell that, like, I was so depressed. And I was like, I got to figure this out. I have kids. Like, I can't be in here in the dark, you know what I'm saying, at home, not wanting to do anything, not want to go outside, not want to socialize with people. So I just had to figure out, like, I say what fills my cup, right? Because you can't pour from an empty cup. And so once I started, like, traveling, that's, like, my thing. I love to travel. You know, I feel like that's what fills my cup. So whenever I was able to like fill my cup, then it made me a better version of myself, you know, and feel like, okay, this is how I show love to myself, you know, is by doing this one thing for me, because I do so much for so many, you know, other people in the respectfully, like in the best way, you know, with my advocacy and stuff like that, that I just needed to figure out, you know, what makes me happy. And once I was able to figure that out, it was easier.
So you said traveling is one thing that filled your cup, and I totally resonate with that, because like I love to see new places and stuff and things like that, but you know, ever since my situation happened, it's been, you know, kind of hard for me to do so. So where was a place that you felt like your cup was most full? Like when you landed, you were just like, this is everything.
Oh my gosh, Hawaii.
Really?
Yes.
I miss my mind.
Hawaii was amazing. And I was there for a long time. I was there like 3 weeks.
Really?
Yeah. So I got to explore a lot of places. I brought my kids. So it was really cool. But it's so serene and so quiet and like just calm. I was like, yeah, but I couldn't live there because I like the 4 seasons. Yeah. You know, but.
You don't get no 4 seasons in Texas.
Yes, you do. Girl. I mean, they're a little late. They're a little thrown off. Like, your fall might be, like, December. Oh. But you eventually, you know.
And then winter is, like,
January.
The second week of January. And it's
maybe
over by
February.
The third week. Got it.
And then we back to spring and summer.
I'm so jealous. Texas. I know y'all be saying Atlanta and Texas ain't got no more room. But Texas, if you have a little bit more room, just let your girl in, okay? I just need a little bit more. Okay, so let's see. We had a few more comments in here. Gabe Crum said, we love you through it all.
Yes.
Let's see. Miss Shanta said, thank you for your confidence and your boldness. She said, George said, yes, kids will make you maintain your wholeness. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they definitely kept somebody from, Keisha Moore said, we love you, Jess. Yes. We love you, Jess. Keela said, both of you ladies are so amazing. Much love and respect to you both. We love you, too. My cousin who live in Texas, Miss Munn, she said, you get all 4 seasons in Texas in a day.
You do. That might be true.
I don't believe it. All right, so you talk about depression and anxiety.
Ooh.
Yeah. So did you ever feel like you had symptoms before? Or was it like when the shift happened, what resources and who and what did you lean on for support? And how long do you feel like it took you to get that support you needed?
I didn't get into therapy until 2016. That was my first time. I didn't believe in therapy. Mm-hmm. I was like, I'm not gonna go talk to somebody I don't want nobody that don't know me trying to tell me what to do with my life, right? I think that is a huge stigma in the Black community, and you know, recently over the past 10 years has it been such a blessing for like the world to acknowledge that mental health is important and that it should be a part of your everyday, you know, routines. Taking care of your mental health should be an everyday thing, but I think that like without that, it was hard for me to know that I was going through depression. I didn't know. I was just like, I just don't feel like doing anything. I don't feel like going out. I didn't know it was depression. I was just like, I just don't want to, you know. But once you start to learn the symptoms of depression, and once you start to realize, oh, I am withdrawing, and oh, I am declining people's calls left and right, you know, then that is the job of your therapist, you know, to help you navigate through that sadness, you know, because to you, you might just be like, I'm just going through this thing, you know, and this too shall pass, right? But like, you look up and it's 5 years later, and you're like, dang, I haven't traveled, I haven't done anything in 5 years, you know? Like, you gotta acknowledge that this is a thing and that this is what happened to you, and get someone to help you navigate through whatever that looks like. Like you said, grief comes in different forms. It doesn't look the same for everybody. I remember telling someone that I was diagnosed with depression, and he was older guy, and like, what are you depressed about? And I'm like, you know, I wish it was that easy to say, this is the one thing that makes me depressed. You know what I mean? But like, having to understand like what it really is so that you can learn how to navigate through it is important.
Do you have these, because your kids are a little like Oh, they're not teenagers yet. Well, you have one teenager.
I do.
You have one teenager. So what does the conversation with them look like?
I always check on my kids' mental health, like always, because I didn't realize that it was a problem for me, and so I don't want to overlook those signs in my kids. So I always like, how you feeling today? Are you okay? What's up? We have a very close relationship. So I think that learning it myself and being able to teach that to my kids has been, a blessing. It's made it a little easier.
You're able to notice when they're having their moods and able to talk to them.
My kids are in therapy.
Oh, I love that. See, you guys, don't be afraid of therapy. Men, women, go to get a therapist. And I'm also an advocate. Like, a lot of people say, like, you got to get this kind of therapist or that kind of therapist. I'll tell anybody, my therapist is this white lady named Sarah. And when I tell you I love everything about Sarah, she makes me feel so good.
Yeah.
And I had another therapist who was amazing. She was a black therapist, a black Christian therapist. And that's what I sought out at first. But I noticed that I was angry at God. You know what I'm saying? Like, when everything first happened, I was so angry at God. That I'm just like, I don't want to hear this,
Yeah.
So did you have any moments where you was just like, I don't want to be positive? Like,
yes, I completely lost faith. Like,
lost
God
faith?
God was not a conversation to be having with me. Like, at that time, nah. I'm gonna pray for you and all that. No.
How did you feel like you got that back, or how long did you feel like?
Back in 2022, honestly, it hasn't been that long that I started tapping back into, like, the faith side of my life. I grew up in the church, and I think that was also, like, a reason why I kind of got very, really, really, really distant from it, because it was something that used to be, like, forced, Yeah. And so, but back in 2022, I started going to church with my cousin Derek and Elena, and that was, like, I used to love going. And I'm like, I haven't been in a little while, but, like, that was, like, to me, I was like, oh, I felt good every time I left service. You know what I mean? And so that made me want to, like, tap in. And my kids love church.
Nice.
So that made me want to tap in. It's been hard, to get back in there because my life is so busy right now. But when I first tested positive for HIV, like, I was like, no.
Like, me and God, we ain't cool right now.
We not cool right now.
We not cool right now. Let's see real quick with the comments. Who do we have? Latrice said, y'all are inspiring. Shaq said, hey, ladies. What up, Shaq?
Hey, Shaq.
Thank you so much for checking in. Remember, you can always drop your questions and your comments in the chat. Let us know that you're here. We really appreciate you guys being here. So you just talked about your children. I know we talked about them before. Are they aware of your diagnosis? And if so, how did you educate them? And like I said, I know you have a teenager. So I guess more so speaking about the teenager. But how do you educate them through not only what you're going through, but to keep them safe also?
That's actually been a really big challenge for me, is having those conversations, because my son, he's about to be 13 this year, my middle son. My daughter will be 15. But I think it's important to educate them on at least what it is and the different ways that you can transmit it or contract HIV. Because let's be real with ourselves and say that kids are having sex at a super young age, like these days, And so more than anything, I just want you to learn from my experience as my kids, They advocate with me, so they see the upside. They see that, like, I hit this, like, bump in the road and it sucked, but this is what I did with it. They come on photo shoots with me, stuff like that. Like, they see me speak, they see that I'm an author, they share with all kinds of people. Oh, my mom's an author, whatever. Nice. But having the conversation, I started young. I want to say maybe 8 or 9 when my daughter first asked me why I was taking medication. And I was telling, I had to explain. But, again, that situation is a little unique because she has 2 HIV positive parents. So it's like, that looks a little different for her. But my son, is just like, he just has to learn, because I contracted HIV from, obviously, a man, right? A black man. And I just teach my son, like, don't you ever do that. Like, if you put yourself in a situation where you're like, you got, you know, an STI, STD, whatever, HIV, whatever, you make sure that you are telling your partner.
Yeah.
You know, that's important. Like, you can't just be out here reckless, you know. And when I did the interview for Revolt TV years ago, I said in the interview that the guy that gave me HIV wasn't a bad guy. And, like, they ate me alive. They ate me alive, right? But I also think that he never learned how to navigate life with HIV. Nobody ever taught him that. Mentally, emotionally, being born with HIV, to parents that were drug abusers, you know, and stuff like that. Like, nobody taught him how to navigate that. And it doesn't justify his behavior. He's wrong, right? But it's like, you know, you get a different level of understanding when you're in the hot seat, when you're the one that's living with HIV. It's like, yeah, man, you were wrong and you were bogus, and that's all kinds of messed
Have you
up.
had the opportunity to tell him how you feel?
I gave him a copy of my book after I wrote it.
Ooh, come on now,
And
clock it.
I put a handwritten letter in there, and that was my closure, because he never apologized. He never gave me, I feel like, what I needed to heal from that. So I just,
You feel like
that
you
was
got
my
the
way
closure.
of like, of letting it go. Yeah. I know.
Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about your advocacy.
Yes.
And, like, so how was the interview where, like, when Revolt reached out to you? What was that like?
You know what? I had no idea who Revolt TV was. None. Zero.
That's crazy.
And the person that reached out was like, you never heard of Revolt? Like, you don't watch The Breakfast Club? I was like, oh, I don't think I knew that The Breakfast Club isn't on Revolt anymore, but they were. And I was like, oh, I've heard of The Breakfast Club. And then I was like looking, but it wasn't a big thing in the Midwest or even in the South. It was more like an East Coast, West Coast kind of thing. So I was like, oh, this is cool. I'll do it, you know? But that actually, like, catapulted my advocacy. That was, like, how I got the opportunity to do Essence magazine and how I got the opportunity to do Madame Noir. I've done several features for them, and Women's Health magazine, and everything. The AIDS Foundation of Chicago was really, really, really helpful for me in helping to build the platform to share my story as well. When I started helping them promote the AIDS Walk of Chicago. And so their PR would reach out and say, hey, like, someone wants to do this story. That's how I did the Chicago Tribune feature and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's afforded me a lot of opportunities doing that interview, but I had no idea who Revolt TV was when I did it. I was just like, sure, I'll share, no problem.
Have you learned more about yourself with doing these interviews and these things? Like, I know sometimes you're like, I'm just Jessica.
I am.
But now it's like, yo, I'm Big J.
The big one.
Right, I'm the Big J, not the little one. But how does that make you, like, I don't know, like...
You know, I was in the hospital to get my tubes removed. I decided I wanted more kids. And somebody came to me with my Revolt interview on her phone.
Wow.
And she was like, is this you? And I was like, yes. But that was the first time that somebody I'd never met a day in my life, like, acknowledged me, you know, from the interview. But it has definitely, like, brought out a lot of things in me, you know, that has allowed me to share my story. Sometimes I feel like people are tired of hearing my story, you know, but then I think of how many people are really in the world and how many people maybe haven't heard my story yet. And so that's why I just continue to share whenever an opportunity presents itself, because there's going to be somebody that doesn't know.
Right. That's good to hear, because I just got grilled today, because, like, sometimes you think people are, like, overhearing your story, like, overhearing what you've been through.
Yeah,
like, they can
here she go again. Here's this HIV story again. Like, yeah.
You think people are just tired of hearing your story when, like, if they really love you, if they really care for you, they're never tired.
Exactly.
Or they're going to help you, like, you know, navigate through that space. Like I told you off camera, like, today has been like this week has been a really emotional week for me, and just trying to learn how to keep people aware. I guess to keep people aware and not, like, shut them, because I feel like, okay, I don't want to answer the phone. I really don't want to talk. Or And I really don't feel that way though.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I really want to just go somewhere. Like I put up a video yesterday of me really just wanting to go to Olive Garden, right?
Yeah.
Mind you, I had just got off the phone with my friends, and I felt like with my cousin and like my sister, and they're like, "Why you put up a whole video and you could have just like what?" I'm like, everyone was busy, and but like you said though, somebody else might need to hear your story, so that was one of my reasons too. But sometimes I feel like people are just like tired of hearing,
and they're not,
and they're really not. So I'm grateful for friends and family who are always willing to hear my story.
Yes,
tears, things like that.
Yes.
Somebody's gonna listen. So I want to talk about dating and love life and things like that. Because, baby, when I tell you fine like wine, I know they be all up on you. Okay, so, how has, after your diagnosis, what lessons did you learn when it comes to dating, and how has dating been?
Since my diagnosis, dating was really hard at first because in your 20s, I don't necessarily think that that's something a lot of people are educated on is HIV. Like I was young. Like,
you never notice how young you are in your 20s until you're not in your 20s anymore.
Exactly.
You're like, whoa, I was 22. Yeah. Like, when you're 22, you're like, I'm grown. I'm outside,
Yes. And expecting someone to understand that you now have HIV and, like, trying to, like, that's scary, So dating was really hard. I just kind of kept to myself. I didn't date really a lot, maybe for the first, 5 years or so. I was just trying to figure it out. Like, I didn't know how to disclose. Disclosure was really hard. I always say that's one of the hardest things of living with HIV is having to tell people that you love, people that you care about. But, dating, I find it important. Me personally, I disclose, off the bat, and maybe that's part of me being an advocate as well as just not being afraid, but that's not fitting for everyone. Some people feel like they want to wait, because everybody doesn't need to know,
True.
So it's like if you're dating someone and after a couple weeks you're like, I'm not really feeling him. You don't got to tell them. If you don't ever plan on having, sex with this person, and I'm not going to say him, but a partner, if you don't plan on ever being intimate or sharing needles or anything like that with them, then you don't have to disclose.
So we did have a question in the comment. Mr. Shaq said, when you date a guy, do you wait to fill him out before you tell him, or do you just tell him off bat? I know you kind of answered that already, but
I do tell him off bat. But I've tried both methods. I've tried waiting. I think where it got to be hard with waiting was feelings got involved, and then you never know how someone is going to handle that kind of news, and so then it was like, now you really like each other, and now you're like, oh, and I had a situation when they're like basically like, you're perfect, like what's wrong with you, type of thing, and it's just like, I'm HIV positive, you know what I mean, and it's just like, you wait, it's like the shoe, waiting for the shoe to drop, it's like, how's he gonna take this, you know what I mean? I've gotten a lot of friendships, out of it, to where people are like, oh, I don't necessarily see myself being in a committed relationship with you, but you're cool as, you're cool.
How do you educate someone who might be in their 20s who might be dealing with this, like, on how to date, like how or where, or like, because you go on dating sites, that's something like you put in your bio.
It is in my bio. It is in my bio.
Oh, okay, okay.
I put it in my bio because first of all, I want people to know that, like, it's out there. Yeah, it's out there. Secondly, it makes the conversation easier. Because before, I don't do online dating anymore, but when I was doing online dating, like, it was a topic of conversation off the bat, like, hi, blah, 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 interested, whatever, like, oh, dating must be hard, blah, 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 and it opens the door for a more fluid conversation, whereas maybe, like, if I didn't have it on there and now we're just getting to know each other, now I'm filling you out to see, like, there's a level of maturity, right, that you have to have in order for someone to disclose your status like that to someone. Like that person needs to have a certain level of maturity. And if you feel like this person is going to be like, oh, you have AIDS, and like, oh, don't touch me, don't breathe on, type of thing, like,
not really knowing how it's transmitted and things like that. People just guess, and that goes back to the stigma of having HIV/AIDS.
Yes. So, and that makes it hard too, right?
Yeah.
Because HIV, when you say HIV, you say AIDS.
Yeah.
Right?
And they're two
totally different things, but you will always see it together. And so I think that's what makes it hard for people to differentiate that HIV is not AIDS, because when you see HIV, you see /AIDS. But it's because you have to address both, because it starts at HIV always, right? So AIDS is like late stage HIV. Okay. So it's like, that's why you always see it together. Because
so it's like, I have HIV, I don't have AIDS.
But people that have AIDS started with HIV.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So it's just kind of like, you'll always see it that way, but it does make it hard for people that are not educated.
So what made you wake up one morning and be like, you know what, I want to be an advocate? Like,
dating.
Or did it, dating?
Dating. Because dating was so hard. I was like, man, if I just tell the whole world all at once, then nobody can say they didn't know. And if somebody approaches me or swipes left or right or whatever it is, online, like, they already know.
Did it start with your book? Or
no,
like,
it started in, my first public, I disclosed my status publicly December of 2015 on Facebook. I wrote a poem called December 21st. That was the day that I tested positive, right before Christmas, 2009.
And how did you feel the response was from that?
It was all positive. And I was terrified, because I was like, people are going to be like, ew, but they weren't. They weren't. Everybody was positive. I think that's probably still today, like, one of the most, like, engaging, like, posts that I made. 500.
How does your family feel about you, like, being so, because, in, like, the Black community, sometimes it's, like, secrets. Like, certain things are secrets.
Yeah.
Was your family supportive of you during that time, or do you feel like...
No. I can say... to be transparent, that no, because they were afraid of how people were going to judge me at 22.
To protect you.
Yeah. So it wasn't because of being embarrassed. It was more like, I'm afraid for you and I'm afraid for your kids. So it took them a while to come around, but once I started advocating, once I made up my mind that this was something I wanted to do.
You just went here first?
Yeah.
What's been your most powerful speaking engagement so far?
My most powerful speaking engagement,
because you've done a lot, like, or maybe not even speaking engagement, but event or anything that you've been to, because your accolades are crazy of things that you've done.
Thank you.
Oh, yes, of course, baby. I see you.
Thank
I see
you.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that. Yes, I would say too. I did a HIV town hall for 97.9 The Beat radio station in Dallas.
Nice.
That was really nice. It was a panel discussion, and they had the floor open for questions, and I sat on the panel with some pretty prominent people in the Dallas area. That was really powerful, because it was an opportunity for the community to come and learn. I would say the second one it was a private event I did on behalf of the National Association of Black Journalists. The VP of Print, Eva, she's a Black woman, amazing. She invited me to come and do an event. And like I said, it was private. But it was to change the narrative on how HIV and AIDS is portrayed in the media. And so I sat on a panel with doctors and infectious disease doctors and people in the political side of the business, in Texas. And it was really, the Director of Health and Human Services was on that panel. So that was really cool to be in the same room with so many, like, important people.
That
in my
is
opinion,
amazing.
Yeah.
Goodness, like, your voice had some weight amongst doctors.
Yes. Yes, it was really exciting. A little intimidating, but exciting.
No, but I know you held your own. All right, we have a few more comments. Let's see. Nina, hey, Nina's from Grady's Popcorn is checking in. She said, it takes a special kind of resilience to share your story, and I'm inspired by it. It takes incredible strength, courage, and a sense of purpose. To God be the glory.
Thank you.
My little sister Sierra's checking in. Hey, Pooh. Miss Jessica's here. Thanks so much for educating. I cannot stand that she changed her name up.
Is that Crystal?
No.
Oh.
Get on my nerves. Okay, so what's the And I know we talked about HIV and AIDS, but what's the biggest misconception about living with HIV today?
Oh, the biggest misconception, outside of the fact that HIV is not AIDS, because that is the biggest misconception, is that it only happens to, I shouldn't say only, but predominantly happens in the gay community, or if you're promiscuous. Like, you have to have a bunch of partners. Like, I was in a relationship, a monogamous relationship with one person, you know what I mean, that just wasn't honest. And that's all it takes is one person to not be honest. And so you don't only get it from unprotected sex, you also get it from sharing needles. It is also very possible for someone to be born with HIV. So, you know, if you have young children, teenagers, you know what I mean, like, don't think that they're safe because they're young, you know what I mean? Because you think that someone that's 13 or 14 years old would not have HIV or is not sexually active, because they could still be born with HIV if their parents did not take care of themselves. You know what I mean?
Or if their parents didn't tell them.
Or their parents didn't tell them. They never, you know, like now you have to get tested now, you know, but like how you choose to take care of yourself is on you. You know what I mean? So, the stigma around that it only happens to a certain type of people, that it can't happen to certain types of people. Like, we have to get out of that mindset, because it can literally happen to anybody, like anybody.
At any time. How do you help others that are living with HIV find hope and strength? Like, when you step into those rooms or those spaces, what are some things that you say? That
this is not the end all be all. And I always encourage mental health support, because if you get a hold of your mental health, then it will help you tremendously to navigate that life. You know what I mean? But I think the most powerful thing that I tell people is, like, to make sure that you stay in therapy and that you get the help that you need. You know, because a lot of times it's about being embarrassed and you don't want to disclose and stuff like that, and that's cool. I get it. You don't want to tell people, you don't have to tell nobody. But make sure that you find one person that you trust enough to share, you know, that can be with you in those dark times. Because otherwise, like, you will really struggle on coming out of, like, such a dark space without help.
So we have a question. What's your stance on PrEP versus smart choice? And for those who don't know, can you describe what that is?
So I'll speak to, I'm not well versed enough on smart choice to speak on that, but I will say that like if PrEP is important, right? PrEP is important because sometimes it's not just about you. I'm undetectable and I can't transmit HIV sexually, right? But if it's a matter of my partner being comfortable mentally, like, even though I can't give my partner HIV, if he's more comfortable taking PrEP and for his own mental health, then by all means do it. You know, I do think it should be like a option for everybody, whether you're promiscuous or not. You know, I met a lady she was 63. She had been positive 3 years, married for 30. Oh, God. Right? And so it's like, you know, your partner step out on you, you know, like, it's important to know your status, to get tested. And yeah, like, if you can have an option to take PrEP, I think, you know, you should. Like, if you can do it. If you can, I think you should.
So I know you spoke about getting to therapy. So what do you wish the world understood about HIV and mental health together?
They go hand in hand. Like, I feel like having to navigate through a life like that, and any diagnosis, any traumatic, you know, diagnosis experience, is important to have a mental health support, because without it, I think it's really easy to lose yourself. It's really easy to forget, like, who you were. And I made a post about that not long ago, about missing the person that I was when we talk about grief, you know, and stuff like that. Like, I think sometimes I do grieve the person that I was before I contracted HIV, because I felt like I was very much so a different person.
That right there is so deep. Like, grief changes you. Like, grief, and people around you, you know, may see it, and you might think that no one else sees it, but they really do see a change in you, or you try to cover it up so much. But it's like you're a whole different person.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm just speaking for myself, like, sometimes I feel like I'm not the happy person I used to be, or I'm not as, I can't find joy in certain things that I used to find joy in. Yeah. You feel like that sometimes?
Yes. Yeah. That happens a lot. Yeah. That happens a lot. Once I started to learn what makes me happy and started doing more of that, then everything else seemed to be a little easier, right? But also, there is things that have happened to other people in my life where I'm like, my situation's not that bad, you know? And so then I find myself like, oh my gosh, you know, like when you lost your son, like I was devastated. And then it felt like selfish to even be like upset about such a thing, you know, when other people like, you know, have these other experiences that are like, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you navigate that life. You know what I mean? Because it's hard. Like HIV is one thing, you know, but like losing a child is another thing, or getting a stage 4 cancer diagnosis. Like that's another thing, you know, like HIV isn't always terminal. It's not always like, you know, if you get AIDS, then, you know, that's another conversation. But it's like you still have a very good chance of living a long, healthy, fulfilling life with HIV. And I think that gets lost, you know, with other things. And so it's like, you know, it sucks. It's unfortunate, you know, but I took my lemons and made lemonade, you know what I mean? But I do understand that everybody can't do that too.
True. And you have to, no, and like we said earlier, grief looks different on everyone. Like I remember when I lost my son, some parents would say like, oh yeah, man, you lost your son so young. And, you know, they may have lost their son when they're older. I'm like, man, would you lost your son so much older? And I felt like you had so much life to live with your son and like so many memories. Yeah. And they were like, well, you didn't get to make a lot of memories. So it's like, it's like that thing where it's like, you got to make lemons out of lemonade.
You got to.
You got to make the lemons out of lemonade.
But I can't tell you, you know, it's not fair to put a timeline on that either. You know, it's not fair to put a timeline on anything, to tell people how to grieve, how long to grieve, you know, things like that. And so that's why, like, you know, when things happen to other people, I'm careful with how I respond, you know. Like, I'll send a text message and be like, hey, just checking in, because people don't want to talk all the time.
True.
You know what I mean? Like,
and I thank you for those text messages. I thank you for, like, I really want to take some time to say thank you, because you really did check up on me. You called, you text, you just everything that you did for me in those moments. Even to this day, I'm so grateful for a friendship like yours. Just the conversation some days helped me get my mind, even when it was like, you know, hey, I need help with, you know, social media, whatever. Like, you let my mind be free for a moment. Yes. And so I'm proud of everything that you're doing.
Thank you.
All the moves that you're making. Like, you're such an inspiration.
Thank you.
With life and love, and just your light shines so bright. So I'm gonna brighten it up a little bit. Let's do a few fun questions.
Okay.
Who is your favorite character from Living Single?
See, and like I tried, like I would say.
Okay, were you a Living Single or a Martin person?
Martin person for sure.
Okay, so let's go with Martin.
Martin person for sure. If I had to pick a character from Martin, I would say I really like Pam.
Pam?
Yes.
Yeah, Pam was
I
that
really
chick.
thought, like, I love her personality.
She was feisty.
Yes.
She was able to, like, check anybody that came her way. Like, Pam did not play.
Yes.
I like that.
I would say.
I would have to say, I like the mama. No, give me Shanae all day. Because Shanae popped in and out. Because, like, growing up in the suburbs, at least for me, growing up in the suburbs in church, like, I was very proper. But every now and then, I get to roll my neck and act like Shanae, you know what I'm saying?
So it's about being able to be somebody else.
Being somebody else. Like, I remember when I was a kid, a teenager, I used to read, like, these hood books, like extreme hood books. I didn't never live no life like that. I just wanted to escape. 90s R&B or 2000s?
Oh, music is such my thing.
Right.
It's so hard for me. I would say 2000s.
2000s.
Yes.
2000s
I would say
R&B.
yes, like Ashanti, you know, like that, like
that's when we had good.
Yes.
Well, I was gonna say like good boy and girl groups, but we had that in the 90s.
90s,
too, so
definitely.
I think that's when it was starting to die out a little bit in the 2000s.
Yes, if you're into like the groups, you know, the Boys to Men, you know, those type of things, like okay, but like yeah, I think 2000s is my jam.
Sneakers or heels?
Heels,
Yes. Baby.
Yes.
All right, guys. So, what's next for you? Like more books, more projects? What do you have coming up?
I just released a journal, and actually, when we were talking about disclosure, it has disclosure templates in it to help disclose to your partner. There's 3 templates in it. One is to help disclose to your children. One is to help disclose to a partner, and another one is to help disclose to a family or friend. And it's perforated. So, and it's just generally like, hey, I just tested positive, and it's really lighthearted. It's really like just asking, you know, to be supported on what that looks like for them going forward. It's called To Whom It May Concern, and it has a letter in there from me as an advocate to the person that's newly diagnosed. It also has what I wish I had and what I wish I knew upon my diagnosis on top of the disclosure templates, and then it has a farewell letter in there to try to help someone like navigate through whatever that looks like.
Where can they find it?
It's only on my website on lifeloveandhiv.com.
Okay. Can you repeat that?
lifeloveandhiv.com.
Okay. And how can people connect with you?
All of my social media handles is Life, Love, and HIV, so you can always find me there. And for bookings, it's bookjglaspie@gmail.com.
Okay. And so, you guys, real quick, if you are looking to be a guest here on the Culture Corner, you guys. Oh, wait, hold on. Let's look at that. You guys go ahead and check out her website. She has her books, different things. Talk us through the website.
Yes. Book, journal, and then those are my social media handles, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. So you guys can follow me there. I usually post, you know, just life with HIV. That's a lot of times my hashtags, Life, Love, and HIV, but also my HIV journey. Because I like to provide that sense of normalcy. I think that people think that they lose when they test positive, that they can't have a normal, healthy life. And, like, I still travel. I still do things with my kids. You know, my sex life is active. Like, you know what I mean?
Period.
Like, people have, you know, these misconceptions of what that looks like or what it should look like. And so I like to give people, like, that sense of, like, normalcy.
Because there's life after your diagnosis.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, once again, if you're looking to be a guest here on the Culture Corner, please inbox me, DM me, email me. I would love to have you so you can tell your story as well. Also, I do want to shout out the best and the most amazing studio here in the land. I'm here at the True Conglomerate Studios. If you're looking for any work, any sound, lighting, you want to do any kind of show, you have an event coming up, you guys, let's connect and we can definitely get you started on the right track. Can you leave the audience with any last encouraging words, just for anybody going through anything?
You are the only person in control of your happiness. It is all on you. Your happiness is not in anybody else's pocket, you know, and so you have to make sure that you figure that out. Figure out what makes you happy and make you happy. Don't depend on that from anybody else. Don't depend on validation. You know, I think that we get away from the reality, you know, of the life that we live because of social media. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I used to seek validation a lot. And so I think that's something that, you know, is important to say. It's like, don't seek validation from nobody. Like, you're great. You're an amazing person just as you are, you know, and figure out what makes you happy and do it. Yes.
That you are. You are such a great and amazing person. I'm so glad that you came to sit on my couch today. Yes. I love everything about you. And I'm really proud of just your journey, your story, your tenacity, your how gracious you are, and how you present yourself. So I'm just so happy that you came to spend some time with me. And wait, what's going on this weekend while you in town?
My 20-year reunion.
What?
I know. I'm
That's
getting old.
crazy.
Yes, class of 05. 5.
That's cute. 04.
Yes.
But wow. No, just kidding. I'm so glad. Shout out to class of 05 on your 20-year reunion. That is absolutely amazing. Welcome to the big girl club. Welcome to the big boss club. Okay. No, just kidding. Anyway, guys, once again, thank you so much, Jess. I love you with all my heart. Thank you for stopping by. You guys, like I always say, and shout out to the guests, everyone that tapped in with us today and engaged in the conversation. Like I always say, keep showing up, keep speaking up, keep shining. The culture needs you. From my mic to your heart, this is Coffee B signing off with love. Have a good one.